Gentlemen, this is the coin. This side is heads. This side is tails. JB, it's your call. Call it in the air.
I call heads.
Johnny Futures, it's your call. Call it in the air.
Tails never fails.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back to another Heads or Tails podcast with Johnny Futures and JB. I'll be your host this week, Johnny Futures, of course. And before we get into the episode, you might have noticed the opening was a little bit different. Just wanted to give a big shout out and a big thank you to Dean Navolas and Matt Ryan of the Defending Champions Band from Northern New Jersey, providing that original music for the opener. Thank you very much, guys. And if you guys listening have a chance and want to hear some great music, check out the Defending Champions. Now back to the show. JB posed the question, should we judge greatness by championships? Another great topic by JB. We'll get into my response, but I kind of think I'll be agreeing with JB on this one. Mainly because of our fandom. But you know, realistically in today's sports world, especially for the big three, basketball, baseball, and football in America, I definitely think that a lot of the fans judge greatness by championships. I mean, you hear it in all the classic debates for GOAT of a particular sport, you know, Jordan versus LeBron. A lot of people who side with Jordan immediately go to the championship fact. You know, 2 3-peats, all those MVPs and all that stuff. Well, then in football, before, you know, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady came around years ago, Marino, Montana was the big debate. And a lot of people would support Montana by saying that he had all the Super Bowl rings. But in my opinion, I do not think we should be judging greatness by championships. Another side of the argument is Eli Manning, you know, 2 Super Bowl rings, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 of the greatest postseason runs a quarterback has ever had in NFL history. And if you're a fan of this podcast, you heard us do an episode already about my favorite statistic, which is Eli Manning's record of most passing yards during a single postseason run. But there's a lot of people who say you take away the championships, he shouldn't go into the Hall of Fame. Give him the championships, and it's kind of like, he should make it to the Hall of Fame. If you're a Giants fan, you're saying yes, definitely. And regardless if Eli makes it or doesn't make it, in my eyes, he's still great. And he's the greatest quarterback the Giants have had so far. Harry Carson was another one, you know. Had the championships, great career, didn't make the Hall of Fame until way late. And did that change my opinion of him as a player before that? Absolutely not. And given everything that's going on with the Hall of Fame right now, we don't have to get into it. That could be a whole nother episode. You know, getting to the Hall of Fame for me isn't the end-all be-all to be considered great, in my opinion, for these players. Now, I got into a healthy debate not too long ago with someone who said, you know, bottom line is everybody judges these athletes by their championships. And realistically, they do. What I choose to do is not follow everybody and just look at the player as they are. Now, when you're starting to follow these teams and you're gung-ho, younger, you got a lot more energy for it and all that stuff, you get into it. You want these guys to win. You obviously want to be able to brag that your team is the champion for that year. And it also, for me, I feel like going that route also closes you off to maybe noticing someone who is a great player or a great athlete and they don't get the championships. Just off the top of my head, like Myles Garrett broke the sack record this year. He was on a team that was eliminated from the playoffs during the game that he broke the sack record on. I guarantee you that Myles Garrett would trade that sack record for a championship. And that's fine because that's his record. He's the one out there putting in the work. He's the one out there, being athletic on the field. But for fans to judge players about their greatness because of the championships, I don't know. There has to be some give and take in this because the first thing I will say is all of these three sports, football, baseball, basketball, these aren't individual sports. These are team sports. The big debate with Dan Marino and Joe Montana, Marino never got the ring, but Marino never had the talent around him that Joe Montana did either. And then also Marino, I feel, elevated certain players to play better because of his greatness. So there's that aspect of it too. And just to judge someone on their championships alone, I don't think is fair, especially in football. Actually, especially in any team sport, because it takes a huge team effort. Everything has to go perfectly right for you to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. We've seen it time and time again. How many crazy plays got teams to the Super Bowl or got them to the next round in the playoffs? Look at the Buffalo Bills the last 5 years. How many crazy losses have they had to not get to the Super Bowl? And that propels the other teams to go in. One of those crazy games was the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, granted, Patrick Mahomes' play, let's go to the Bills-Chiefs game that, there was 13 seconds left, I believe. And, Patrick Mahomes made those quick plays with, to leave 4 or 5 seconds on the clock to kick the field goal to go into overtime. But he's not the only one making those plays. He had to throw the ball. Someone had to catch it. That offensive line had to block. Those wide receivers had to run their routes to take away the defenders for the other receivers to catch the ball. There's just so much involved in it that I don't think you can just judge greatness upon championships. I don't think it's fair. I'm going to read some names from all three sports. And these are all players that I consider great, and they never won a championship. And see if you're surprised by any of it. I think in today's day and age with the information that's out there, you probably won't be, but let's get into it. Basketball, Dominique Wilkins, Patrick Ewing, Allen Iverson, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, Steve Nash. No championships. Baseball, Ernie Banks, Tony Gwynn, Carl Yastrzemski, Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro Suzuki, Ted Williams. No championships. And then in football, you got Larry Fitzgerald, second all-time in receptions. LaDainian Tomlinson, second all-time in rushing TDs. Tony Gonzalez, third all-time in receptions, tight end. Junior Seau, ninth all-time in tackles. Anthony Munoz, considered the greatest offensive tackle ever. Bruce Smith, seventh on the list for forced fumbles all time, one of the greatest Buffalo Bills ever. Randy Moss, fourth all-time receiving yards, second all-time receiving touchdowns. Barry Sanders, fourth all-time rushing, 5 yards per carry in his career. Dan Marino. All of those players I consider great to their respective sports. And if I judge them solely on championships, I'd be wrong. And my opinion has changed over the years. Maybe when I wasn't such an educated football fan or baseball fan or basketball fan, the quickest and easiest argument to go to, especially in football, oh, Phil Simms sucks. Who's your favorite quarterback? Dan Marino? Oh, yeah, well, Dan Marino never won a championship. As JB says, by that logic, then Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino. And we all know that is not the case. So I don't think we should judge greatness by championships, but I do think a lot of people do, and I don't think it's fair. So I'm hoping some people can open their eyes a little bit more And if you're about your team, I can respect that too. But if you're a true fan of the sport itself, I think those people understand a little bit more what greatness is and how someone can be great without those championships. And hopefully you can also take the time to acknowledge it and just pay attention to it, because these guys' careers aren't forever. And as much as you want to focus on your team, you know, if you're missing out, you know, for example, and JB's going to love this example, but a player like Josh Allen, you know, he hasn't won. I think the consensus is that he is a great player, carries a team on his back. But if you're one of those guys who doesn't even want to pay attention to him because he's not winning a championship every year, you're missing out on it. I take as much time as I can to try to watch that guy play. On the other side of the ball with defense, you know, look at all those great players as well. You know, the NFL offense obviously is getting bigger nowadays. But on the defensive side of the ball, Myles Garrett, his team was eliminated in the playoffs a couple weeks before he broke the sack record, but that was a great stat record to get. And he was a great player this year. And I think overall in his career, he is a great player. So I would just say try to pay attention to everybody that's good and just root a little bit extra hard for your team. And I know that's a lot to ask, especially for the rabid fans out there. But there's a lot of great players out there, and we shouldn't judge them just on championships alone. For the Heads or Tails podcast, I'm Johnny Futures. Give us a like, leave a comment, give us a follow, and let us know if you think that greatness should be judged by championships. Thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy. Stay safe.